Alrighty, well, very, very happy Friday to everyone. Welcome back to Justin and Trey here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. I'm Justin, and it's been on and off the last couple weeks. Looking to get things back going throughout this weekend here as the weekend approaches us. Today we're gonna go ahead and come back through and kind of give you an update, a run through all of the sports that's going around in our local area and things to come up looking into this weekend. A couple of good stories I'm going to bring up to your way. So let's get started right away. You guys notice the background here now. We've been kind of renovating, I guess to say, and so you'll still see the stuff behind me. Got the title belt, and this isn't the final setup. This is still in progress, but I gotta get the right camera angle and the right, get the right camera angle, and then I'll be able to adjust, put my things back up, where it all looks nice. I still don't know what I'm gonna do. So if you guys have any suggestions, let me know, and we'll be able to get something up and running again. Boy, I am tired. Okay. So there we go. All right. I was just thinking about, everything that I had ready to start the show off today. And I think another great way to start the show, in my opinion, is to kind of get off. We haven't talked about baseball in a while, and I know usually that is kind of a big venue to talk about throughout the season and throughout our show here. So I haven't really followed a lot. Took a couple weeks off trying to just get away from all the sports. And, last time we really broke down and talked a lot about baseball, about the Cincinnati Reds, because we're in the local area, they weren't doing so well. They were not. I think the last time we really had a nice conversation about them was about 2 weeks ago, and they were getting into a series with the Pittsburgh Pirates. They ended up winning that series 2 out of 3. They dropped the previous series to the Milwaukee Brewers 3-0. They also dropped the previous series to Colorado Rockies. They got swept by the Padres, and then it's just terrible start. And we sat here a couple weeks ago and we stated to you that the Cincinnati Reds, they weren't going to go nowhere. Okay, they would be lucky to get 20 wins on the season at their rate. Okay. In the month of April, if I'm not mistaken, they only had 3 wins in the entire month. Even considering that the season started a week late. They come into May, and something, I don't know what clicked, but something clicked on Mother's Day weekend. They take 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh. They take 2 out of 3 in Milwaukee. They split the series against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. Okay. Then they take the 2 games against Cleveland last week. They did fall short to the Toronto Blue Jays. And then they just came back out and split the series with the Chicago Cubs in a 4-game series. Yesterday, the Cincinnati Reds manhandled, and I say manhandled promptly, after beating the Chicago Cubs 20-5. And there's been organizations, there's been franchises that have had more winning records. It feels like the Reds have put up all their runs that they've accumulated all throughout the season, put in yesterday's game. Yesterday, they acted like this was a team that was playoff worthy. Not just playoff worthy. This was a team that, didn't skip a beat, that the first month of only winning 3 games of the month didn't mean nothing to them. Hunter Green goes, he goes 7 hits. He gives up 7 hits, in 5 innings, giving up 5 runs, 2 walks, 6 RBIs. Now, I'm not gonna come in here and tell you that this was, uh, the simplest. This was a format. This wasn't something, nothing too much to talk about or to get excited about. All right, 5 innings, 5 runs, not necessarily a great start out of a guy like Hunter Green, who's been who's been around for the majors for a few years now. Okay, but something out of nowhere gives the Reds the ability to put the bat on the ball, something that they have not been able to do the entire season. Putting up 8 runs in the 3rd inning, scoring every inning except for the 4th and 1st. And for a moment, if you are a Reds fan, you're like, this is a team to be watching. This is a team that we have a chance in the Central. You're beating up on the Cubs. You're only 4 games behind the Cubs in the standings. And I don't want to get too worked up on how the Reds are playing. Great performances out of guys like Nick Senzel, Kyle Farmer. Both went 4 for 4. A lot of base running skills. Great stuff I'm seeing offensively. I think the thing that still gets the Reds is that their starting rotation is not complete. Their bullpen isn't complete now. The bullpen are having their ups and downs. And the one thing I will tell you that I've noticed, all right, besides the 11-run loss back on Tuesday, besides the 7-run loss back on Monday, the Reds are pretty, this month so far have given only 4 games that was above, about 5 games. We'll put 5 games. So the Cubs they gave up 5 runs total between the starting pitcher and the rotation. That's 1. The Cubs earlier in this series giving up 11 on Tuesday and then 7 on Monday. So that's 3 games, 5 runs or more. And then they also gave up, I'm looking here, 11 runs back on the 11th against the Milwaukee Brewers, 5 runs against the Milwaukee Brewers on the 9th, and then 8 runs in a loss against the Pirates on the 7th. So far, in the last 3 weeks, the bullpen has been standard, and I'm very, I'm nothing to get too excited about, but I'm pleased to see there's some progress being made. What's also I enjoyed, I catched a little bit from yesterday after watching, listening to some of the game, and you're seeing, it's nice to see after looking at the box score. It's nice to see a nice frequent rotation. You got guys like Naquin in that lineup, Votto, Pham, who's getting the bat on the ball. He went 2 for 4 yesterday. Brandon Drury, Nick Senzel went 4 for 3 with 3 runs. You see Stevenson, Farmer, not only is nice to see them connecting and getting on base and scoring in the runs, it's also nice to be able to see the consistency out of that roster and out of that everyday lineup that we lacked to see at the beginning of the season because everyone was injured. So Reds is 14-30 on the season so far. Okay, they split the series with the Cubs. They are 5-5 in the last 10 games, and they go on to face the San Francisco Giants today at 6:40. So if you guys are in the local area, you guys want to catch a ball game out now, there's been scattered showers here and there. I don't think it's nothing going to be too complex to get too hyped up and into it. But I'm hoping that this streak continues, especially when you look at looking at their schedule ahead. When you look at moving forward this series, you have a 3-game series with the Giants. You go over to face the Red Sox in a 2-game series before you come home to face the Washington Nationals and then the Arizona Diamondbacks in June. So there we go. So if you guys want to check out the game tonight, 6:40 against the Giants, Carlos Rendon is on the mound for the San Francisco Giants. 4-3, 3.43 ERA on the game. The Reds are sitting currently at 11-12 on the month, playing about 500. I believe if this could be a consistent stretch for the Reds for the remainder of the year, I wouldn't see why they couldn't hit 500 to end the season. I think that would be an optimate goal if the Reds could sit there, and continue these bats, continue these victories, and finish off the season. I know we still have a long ways away. You got June, July, August, September, but if the Reds could sit there and get back to 500, I think it'll be, I think it'll be for me a satisfied feeling coming out there. All right, what are we talking about today? I still want to come back and give you guys an update on the NBA playoffs. Golden State Warriors advanced to the finals, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics play their game 6 tonight as Boston goes in and leads the series against Miami. NHL, as Tampa Bay is waiting to figure out who is going to be facing them next with Carolina and the Rangers. You have Edmonton, who beat Calgary. We'll talk a little bit about that. St. Louis and Colorado take up tonight. So we'll cover NBA, NHL. Coming over into professional wrestling here. It's I want to say it's been a slow week, but I feel like there's been ever since what happened last Monday with Naomi and Sasha Banks, I kind of feel like there's been a kind of like the vibe just been taken, like the wind's been taken out of, the air's been taken out of the room. A couple of things we'll go over. I'm sure a lot of people by now is quite, the assumptions of simply, listen, there's not this roster between the Raw and SmackDown and the whole division is to its end. All right, there's reports already about what we're going to see tonight on SmackDown. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins heading on over to SmackDown tonight. And I'm going to say if this is the direction that the WWE is going into, where it's holding, Roman Reigns has both titles. The Usos are holding on both titles. Hell, you may even see a unification for the Raw and SmackDown's women's championships at some point. If this is the direction that they go into, I told you this from the beginning, that they needed to combine the rosters. I'm surprised it took them this long. It's been a very slow process. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Money in the Bank location has been changed. Something that I've been kind of avoiding for a little while is the return for one more match. Ric Flair returning to the ring for one last match at the age of 73. And I was listening to this the other day on the Armchair Booking podcast, and I feel like there's so many. There's still going to be people that are excited to see him just step foot in the ring and maybe even take a bump. But I think a majority of the wrestling nation, or just the majority of the nation, I could ask any person on the edge of the street, if you're 73 years old, with the pacemaker and all that, he was on his deathbed a few years back, and just imagine him in the ring. There's two sides of the story. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, came across an article I wanted to share with you today. If in the event, just hypothetically, just filling in some content, but 5 potential replacements for Dean Ambrose in the Shield. So I'll share with you what Sportscadia has to offer on that, those 5 people, and much more. Justin and Trey is brought to you. Going to be happening without the without a StreamYard, where you create your podcast, host virtual business meetings, even conduct interviews. StreamYard.com. Go check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. All right, let's take a break. Let's come back and let's kind of walk you through the sports and some of the certain stories. Don't go nowhere. Justin and Trey returns here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, all music here is brought to you by Epidemic Sound. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. Go check out epidemicsound.com for more information. All right. I'm looking at my screen myself, and I kind of feel there's just bits and parts of you. For example, here's a nice one. If there's certain things that I have to leave the house with, it's just a natural being. There's certain things that I have to leave the house with, or else I'll feel misplaced. And one of those things are, like, for example, my keys, my phone, my wallet. If I'm wearing, jeans, I have to wear a belt, even if they're not loose. My watch. I feel very out of place if I leave. I've been looking at the same backdrop of the show for so long that I'm kind of, we're making some adjustments. I slid the desk over a little bit so it's not angled, and now, it's like, okay, I'm seeing just a white backdrop right now, and I'm not necessarily happy with it. And that's just because I'm trying to figure out the perfect angle to put things back up, because the camera angle was going to be adjusted. It's still going to be adjusted. So it's nice. It's a work in progress. But I'm looking at myself and I'm like, oh no, what am I doing? So there we go. So kind of, we got computers over here, this over there. So I'm kind of still adjusting to where I'm at, where I want to be at, how I want to do things. So it's going to probably be a couple episodes now. Kind of have taken a little bit more of a break throughout this entire month for the last, I want to say about a month. I know there's been less shows on Wednesday and Thursdays. Kind of wind down. We'll kind of start picking things back up. It's been a little bit slower. We will be back tomorrow and Sunday. We will be there for that. Times will be adjusted. So check social media accounts to verify time frames on when we will be here live. If you guys can't watch us, you guys could always go back and watch us whenever. But if you guys want to, take us on the road with you to work, to wherever you guys are at, you guys could download us on all audio streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We have iHeartRadio. So feel free to take us with you wherever you may be at. I kind of want to take this time and kind of just run through some other sports. We have NBA playoffs still in bout, and you kind of figure after a month and a half of NBA playoffs, you're kind of getting tired of it, and I'm a little tired of the NBA playoffs. It's been going on for quite some time, and this is kind of the first year where I'm paying a little bit more close attention to NBA, the NHL playoffs, stuff like that. And that's because of this show. And one thing that I quickly noticed is I'm like, why am I, NBA playoffs, they started back at I want to say beginning of April. And then, they've been going on since, for well over a month now. And they're still not even done. They're just still in the, semifinals. They haven't started the NBA finals yet. which I believe is supposed to be starting up soon because Miami and Boston will have Game 6 tonight as Boston leads the series 3-2. Now, if you right now, as what we're looking at, there's two things that really have surprised me a little bit, and one of them is Miami being able to last this long. I've always underestimated how good the Heat has been throughout this past season. I've heard plenty of times where everyone has praised the Miami Heat. When it came down to this year playoffs, one of the teams I go to is because I'm comfortable with this team, and I've always relied on this team to pull through. Is the Boston Celtics, and they sure had their they sure had to work hard for where they're at today, but Miami's putting up that fight too. Where they're going to be in Boston tonight. Tonight's tip-off is at 8:30, and Boston leads 3-2, and they won the last two. I'm expecting, if it was down my books, and I may be wrong by tomorrow, but I'm expecting Boston to go in tonight, win the game tonight, and move on to the finals. Golden State Warriors, on the other hand, was a team who beat the Dallas Mavericks last night 120-110 in Game 5 to win the series 4-1. Now, Golden State Warriors, one of those franchise dominating teams of the decade. They are officially entering in their sixth final NBA Finals over the last 8 years. Klay Thompson went in last night, put up 32 points. I really want to see a Golden State Warrior and Boston Celtics NBA Final Series. And because right now, the Golden State Warriors, and I may use this reference prematurely, but for me, the reason why I would like to see Golden State in Boston, because it would remind me, and probably in this case, entertain me to the point of back in the day where the Celtics faced the Los Angeles Lakers. So we will find that out tonight. While we're here, want to also transition into the NHL. Okay, the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Rangers last night 3-1. They lead the series 3-2. Now, the winner of this series is going to jump over and face the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, right now, I would love to see Tampa Bay in New York. I believe it's going to be a little bit more difficult to see this series to happen. New York was able to survive Pittsburgh, which I thought was a tremendous series. This Carolina team, another tremendous series after beating Boston, and I believe it's going to be Tampa Bay and Carolina. They're off today. Edmonton beat the Calgary Flames last night 5-4, and they won the series 4-1. They're also waiting to face the winners of Colorado and St. Louis. Now, Colorado currently holds the lead 3-2. I would love to see St. Louis to win, if just asking my opinion. But now two teams are ready for the NHL semifinals. So no games are scheduled for today. I believe the rest of them are scheduled for tomorrow, although I don't have any of that. I do have it popped up. No, I don't have it popped up. No, don't have it popped up. So, all right, we're slowly getting down the process. That's around the world in sports. Coming in on a Friday, the Padres are are home to the Pirates to begin their series. The Giants, a host, are over in Cincinnati actually to begin that series. Couple of things going on. You have Cleveland. You actually have the Dodgers over in Arizona, Blue Jays in Los Angeles to face the Angels, the Milwaukee Brewers, and the St. Louis Cardinals. Talked about those standings. I know that the Cincinnati Reds are, not looking so good. They're just kind of sitting dead last behind the Chicago Cubs. They only have 14 wins on the season. Cubs sitting at 18 wins along with the Pirates. And I'll be the first person to tell you that I was not expecting or anticipating, in the month of May or at the end of May, that the Pirates will be playing better than the Cincinnati Reds. Talking about the standings, I've kind of just been updating myself, and there's a lot of excitement coming out over right now on the West Coast when it comes down to the Dodgers, the Padres, the Giants. Dodgers currently hold first place in the NL West, 30 wins, 14 losses. The Padres are right behind them with 28 wins, and the Giants sit at 24 wins. Now, this is going to be a division that everyone is going to be participating. It's going to be taken up until the last day of the season. I sure hope. The one thing that if you're in the NL West that you're seeing, it kind of almost reminds you of exactly what happened last season, other than maybe the San Francisco Giants would have had a better record. Now, one thing is difficult about the NL West is, when you think about each and every year, it doesn't matter how good the Dodgers are, they always will have a tremendous, like a huge lead margin over, the entire division. It's usually the Dodgers at the top of the food chain, and it's all the other teams trying to fight for a wild card position. Now, the San Diego Padres got off to a great start last year, and April, May, June, hell, even July, they started calming down. Well, they really let themselves go in the midst of August, let them go away in April, and there's almost that vibe. The players are buying into. I was listening to this morning. The players were buying into what Padres manager Bob Melvin's putting out on the field. And now, what I like a lot about this is that normally going into the season, you usually have your number one, your number 1-2 guy, go-to guy. You got your closer. Well, it could be anyone, anytime, anywhere. Now, what I like, what is also entertaining to see is that there feels right now in San Diego that there is control. And I know it's early to say, we're only at the end of May, but when you have a manager that knows how to control his team, whether through the the good times and the bad, it is easier for, more, settling for a team, for players to get behind the, manager and believing in the system, believing in the process, and allowing that process to work. So I would recommend, because right now it looks like where the Padres are at, they're not focusing on what the Dodgers are doing. They're not focusing on where the Giants are at tonight. They're focusing on their game tonight against the Pirates moving forward, which that's how it should be. You play 162 games a season, and you don't need to focus about the next series. Just focus one game at a time. Here's another thing that was also gravitating my attention. I thought it was a great point. I remember growing up, each time you got those promotional maybe program books, they would always advertise highlights of a series that came in, maybe one or two players. So here's an example. Let's say in the month of June, you would have maybe the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Dodgers coming into Cincinnati. Well, what they would do is that in their little, they would create a program where they would have an active roster for all the, for their, team for that month. And, they will go through all their sponsors and all that stuff. And then in the middle of it, they will say, all right, here's upcoming series that you could look forward to. Okay. So for example, next week we're playing the Red Sox. Well, if the Red Sox are in town, who's one or two guys highlighting that team, and then they would put those guys' names in there. Hey, go check out David Ortiz. Go check out A-Rod. Go check out, King Griffey Jr. The Mariners are coming into the town. Well, the Padres used to do that. I don't know about much any other teams that would do that, because I didn't go, travel and go to their stadiums. But teams that are not performing well or just have a low fan base, they will promote other teams coming into town, facing them, to get fans to come and say, hey, Clayton Kershaw's coming into town. In 2 weeks, we should go check out to go watch Clayton Kershaw. Well, maybe the Reds should be starting to do that to sell some seats. But for the Padres, they're only promoting their players, and I think that's a great move, a great marketing to campaign tools, techniques, and whatnot moving forward. So, all right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to start talking about. I want to give you 5 people who I think, or who Sportscadia thinks, that can change, that can replace Dean Ambrose as part of the Shield if they so ever feel that they want to reunite. All right, Justin and Trey continues here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, Justin and Trey continues here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. I just want to talk a little bit about this here, a promotional quick advertisement that I want to give a shout out to after this quick promotion. I want to give a shout out to NWF Wrestling, okay, local wrestling promotion in our local area. Thank you guys. I want to give a shout out to specifically people like Tasha, Roger, Chris Harris. Want to just mention some guys like King Tyan, Ella, Riley, Matthews. You have Nikki Victory, Star Rider, Rex. All those guys putting on weekly entertainment shows, and a big promotion that is happening in the town this week. It's a big weekend here. And if you guys did not get a chance to check out, I would highly recommend you guys heading on over to Armchair Booking. Check out Stephen Dwayne, Armchair Booking here, because last night they had a chance to speak with, I believe, one of the organizers to this event tomorrow night called Revolution Rising. And, so they sit down, they talk with Tasha, and they're just kind of picking brains. I've not gotten a chance to watch that one. I'm still on the previous episode between Sasha Banks and Naomi walking out. And I want to talk about just NWF and PGWA, the women's wrestling event. We're going to talk heavily about that tomorrow and some of the matches. Now, want to give a big shout out to Armchair Booking, because they got when the information that they received, they quickly passed it on over to me. We were able to elaborate, and because of that, we were able to pick up and actually sponsor a wrestling match that is going to be taking place tomorrow. Nevaeh will be going after in a one-on-one competition against Ella for the NWF Women's Championship. And I also want to personally throw a shout out there to Courtney for being the one who picked the match. I was like, all right, so we're going to sponsor the match. This is what we have to offer. This is what we're going to get. And we were able to be able to sponsor this match. And so I want to say thank you to NWF, thank you to PGWA. I want to wish both women Nevaeh and Ella good luck in their match tomorrow night. I know I will be there. We will be there. Trey will be there also tomorrow night. So I want to just, from the bottom, thank you. But a lot of great things are happening. NWF moving forward. They have several events coming up in June, July, as we, warmer weathers are approaching. Things are hitting up. Summer sizzles. I believe that's what the event, the summertime showdowns are called. So, but I have no idea. It popped it up the other day, but I don't think I have it. Anyways, all right, let's kind of transition into some other wrestling shows, promotions here. Wanted to talk a little bit about what's happening here on July 31st. Now, it's a little ways away, but there's been a lot of mixed reports about what's going on, and particularly in a event on July 31st, where the 73-year-old Ric Flair is returning into ring. And this is when I'm just all over the place on the map. The five people who can replace Dean Ambrose in the show will take place here at the top of the hour. But I wanted to talk about this. I thought this was a conversation. This was actually a conversation I wanted to avoid, because how do I want to put this? I understand a certain degree when you sit there, or when you not sit there, back in the early days of professional wrestling, when it was all territorial, when it wasn't, when Ric Flair was in WCCW, NWA, wrestling was the only thing that was on your agenda. Now you see athletes today usually go out and they get a realtor's license, they go out, they get a law degree, something, so that when they are done with their sport or whatever profession that they're doing, that they can have a backup plan. Most wrestlers don't. They live, breathe, bleed, eat, sleep professional wrestling. And when you do that, it makes it difficult to walk away from the ring. And, reports have it that Ric Flair is currently getting into shape to wrestle in a match on July 31st. And there's a lot of speculations, a lot of disagreements, a lot of arguing. I want to look at both sides of the story here for a moment. One side of the story is easily said and done, that Ric Flair is 73 years old. He was literally almost practically sitting on his deathbed a few years back. Okay. That was big news going around the wrestling world. Now he's getting ready for in-ring competition. Don't forget, he's been pointed at over the last few years for negativity in assaults, sexual activity, stuff like that, around the world, of his career. And it's started to tarnish his career. I don't know, and maybe there is an article out there, maybe there's an interview out there that I just have not came across yet, but I don't know the reasoning behind why he has chosen that he felt that it's okay for him to get back in the ring. Now, I've mentioned, I had a conversation with Trey about a week or two ago, I want to say, when this first started happening, talked about Ric Flair turning back in the ring. Trey talked to me, and he mentioned that, listen, when Trey was not a big fan of this. Trey did not like this because he started blaming the company, that is hosting this event or sponsoring, anyone who is participating in this, he doesn't. He's not a big fan of the athletes. From my understanding, is that this like a 6-man tag match, and the Rock and Roll Express also in the ring. I'm gonna give you two sides of my take. Ric Flair is gonna do what Ric Flair wants to do. And however you want to perceive that, that is up to you. That is on your time. But if he wants to wrestle at 73 years old and he thinks he could wrestle, then that's on him. That's not on the wrestling promotions. That's not on anyone else but Ric Flair. If he wants to take the risk of dying in the ring, because we've seen it happen before, that's on him. That's on Ric Flair. Will I watch the match? No. There's nothing in the world, not nothing against it, nothing in the world that will say why I don't want to watch the match. But I'm not going to sit here and blame the promotion or his opponents that want to get that's going to be hosting this match on July 31st. I will say this though. I understand that maybe getting back in the ring one last time under his current terms and conditions, because I don't know if he was even quite ready to hang up his boots when he lost at WrestleMania 24 against Shawn Michaels. Okay? I don't think he was ready to give up the boots. And that's that's what led him into going to TNA, because he thought it was an opportunity. That's what led him potentially going to AEW, because it could have been an opportunity to get back in. But, listen, what I will say about this is that at this point, let him do what he wants to do. He's a 73-year-old man. He is old enough to make his own decisions. I understand his health conditions, but listen, if you're going to go put out a match, no one's going to support you unless you get medically cleared. So unless something, we obviously have to throw in the factor that things are going to work out a certain way. With that being said, my only problem that I have with Ric Flair getting back in the ring is the same reason why I started feeling tired of seeing The Undertaker in the ring, tired of seeing Hulk Hogan in the ring, tired of seeing Goldberg in the ring. And it doesn't just conflict into the world of wrestling. You could go look at, baseball, for an example, football. Let's look at a guy like Brett Favre. When, at some point, wrestlers live by the ring. Okay, especially older wrestlers who, like I said, that was their only career. You can't retire at the age of 50 and expect to go get a high-paying job unless you have an education or you have a backup plan. You see, and so I understand why he's doing it, but the longer you do put on a show, the longer you sit in that spotlight, as first of all, that spotlight that Ric Flair is sitting in is not positive right now. And depending on how this match turns out, it may or may not be positive. It may actually ruin his career even more. But you know what? Let him take that into his own hands. Ric Flair will, unless something stops him, he will be in the ring on July 31st in a match at 73 years old with a pacemaker put in. When he was clearly, I can't say he's been clearly instructed not to, but let the man do what he wants. All right, hour number 2 coming up next. WWE is moving the Money in the Bank location because not enough tickets. Was this way too much to begin with? Or is this a sign of where the WWE is headed? Plus, coming up next, 5 people who could replace Dean Ambrose if the Shield returns. Justin and Trey returns for hour number 2 coming up here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Build you up, you break me down, tear everything apart. I give you all I can, but then you go and break my heart. But this ain't true love, boo. But this ain't
all right,
love.
hour number 2 of Justin and Trey is given to you by SeatGeek. You guys can save 20% off on your first purchase of $50 or more by heading on over to SeatGeek.com and use promo code TNC Sports Talk. So, if you guys are looking to get your next ball game ticket, football game ticket, whatever venue you want to get, be sure to check out SeatGeek.com. And when you spend $50 or more, you use promo code TNC Sports Talk and save 20% on that order. SeatGeek.com. Use promo code TNC to Sports Talk. Hour number 2, we're getting ready for Friday Night SmackDown tonight. Check it out. I'm excited. Hold on 1 second. All right. So, we're getting ready for SmackDown tonight. And, looks like potentially the brand's split is over with through numerous reports that it's going back to one. Now, I want to cover that. We're going to get into the five potential replacements for Dean Ambrose. And it was just an article I was just bringing up. I was going to share with you guys. But when we talk about brand splitting, we knew about that. I told you guys about this from day one, you guys. I told you that when you combine both titles, there's two things that you have to do, or there's two options. It leaves you with two options. One is you can assign new titles for both brands. Now, I think that's more, more acceptable because I understand and I know just where Fox is. I know how Fox holds themselves. And normally when you have two different TV promotions, Fox, USA Network, they're going to want two different, they're going to want their own titles for their own brands to handle, for their own publication and promotion. And so when you talked about, okay, we're going to combine the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship together, one, I was okay with it because they look identical other than the belt strap, the leather. And I was like, all right, this is an opportunity. Let's combine the titles. Let's make one title out of it. The WWE Universal Championship. When you think of Universal Championship, I'm thinking of about a title that could go back and forth. A title that could go from Raw to SmackDown to both brands. And since WrestleMania, we have not seen Roman Reigns yet step foot into onto Monday Night Raw, and he has this Universal Championship. No, nonetheless, we haven't seen Roman Reigns defend that title, and I was already becoming acceptive to seeing what this could do, because what you're going to be seeing is a champion that should have been back and forth between brands, defending that title as necessary for the show, for the WWE. And that's what a Universal Championship is. Now, he may, as the face of the company, which we got clarification last weekend, and I appreciate Chris Harris and Roger for clarifying that. But when you have a title like this, is what you do. You have your two main titles. You have a main women's title and a main men's title. They defend their titles on big pay-per-views, such as Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, right? Maybe occasionally here and there at Hell in a Cell or TLC or whatever, Judgment Day, whatever, it calls for it. But what you're seeing is that he's on TV and just doesn't promote it. Now, there's no one going after him either. First of all, you saw Shinsuke, which I thought that was a joke because that lasted a week. And then you saw Drew McIntyre, which I believe, obviously, if our statistics are going right, that's leading up to that, Clash at the Castle, the one in the UK coming up here later in a couple of months. So, there's no direction on where they're wanting that title to go to. You just saw RK Bro drop the tag titles, and the way that they held it on SmackDown, I don't know what happened on Raw, but the way that they held it on SmackDown was as if they were Randy Orton and Matt Riddle is going to go after Roman Reigns now, which would be an ideal thing. But let's face it, okay, the WWE over the last 2 years, all right, 24 months, has let go over 2/3 of their roster. They don't have enough talent right now because they're so focused and fixated on certain people, on certain talents, right? They don't have enough talent to divide the brands. And now we're seeing a brand combination again. Like I said, this is what's going to happen, right? Because you have the titles, you unified the WWE and the Universal Championship. You unified the tag titles. You're going to probably unify the Women's Championship again, which I don't have a problem for. Here's what you do. All right. You talk about, because this has also been in a conversation, what do you do with those other titles, like the United States title, like the Intercontinental title, like the 24/7 title? You got to have them the main event of the show. All right. Each time that Roman Reigns is not there, each time that WWE champion is not there, or that Universal champion is not there, you got to highlight these other titles as the main event, had them be defended, the show be circled around. You talk about, for example, Raw. Raw is a 3-hour show. How in the world are you going to be able to entertain hundreds and thousands of people without putting that title in the main spotlight that it deserves? There's so much rich history behind the Intercontinental Championship, okay? And it's in the right hands. In Ricochet, you got to give them the opponents. They got to fight for it. And then those guys who can or are better than that title, then those are the guys who you see going after, Roman Reigns from time and time again. I will point this out as a peep because, yet again, time and time again, what do we see? Who is available to face Roman Reigns? Right now, there's only two guys on the top of my mind I could give you in a heartbeat, and that's Bobby Lashley, and he's occupied with Omos right now, and I think that's the perfect storyline, and he should stay that way. By the way, he's also on Raw, and because Roman Reigns is not going back and forth, you can't have him get in a feud with Bobby Lashley, and I think the WWE is separating them and not having that feud for a reason. Which leads me to the next person, just on the top of your head right now, who's on SmackDown, who could be the perfect candidate, and that's Drew McIntyre. He deserves that opportunity. But where do we see him get that opportunity? That's going to be at the Clash of the Castles. Okay, we are settled there. What we're also seeing here, all right, who else can potentially have a title match with Roman Reigns? Randy Orton. Okay, I love that. Edge, I see him see him taking that backseat role, so not yet. Seth Rollins, I'm kind of tired of seeing him. Cody Rhodes, yes, but I feel like they're not going to push him. This is the direction that you're going into. Okay, and although I don't know how the television companies are handling it, I understand where the WWE needs to take these drastic measures going forward. But, all right, we're going to put a pin in that and wrap that up after this, because I want to give you and share you 5 people who can potentially replace Dean Ambrose in the Shield. Coming up here after this quick promotional ad. You guys can check out Steve Barber, Dwayne Davis at Armchair Booking Podcast. It's a wrestling podcast. Go check them out at Armchair Booking Podcast on YouTube. Follow them on social media and check out their audio streaming platforms. All right, let's go over the 5 people who can replace Dean Ambrose in a Shield format. Now, one thing that I've always been fascinated about. Now, I'm not the greatest I'm not the greatest enthusiastic person when it comes down to the Shield replacements here, but listen, Dean Ambrose, obviously he's long gone. I don't anticipate him coming back. I don't anticipate him coming back to the WWE to reunite with the Shield. Now, I also do realize and maybe also understand that, hey, listen, all right, Dean Ambrose, the Shield, they started off in the WWE together. I kind of feel like they should end off their career. They took in so much of a concept away. They went on their own directions. They've had success in their own ways. I really feel like they should be coming back together. But listen, I don't see that anytime soon. But if this was to happen, Sportscadia put out a 5 guys who could potentially replace Ricochet. So let me go over those 5 guys for you. This is through Sportscadia. It's on our TNC Sports Talk YouTube page. You could find coming in at number 5, okay, is Ricochet, who broke into the independent scene in early 2003. Almost immediately, he started turning heads with his electric high-flying style and extremely likable persona. Ricochet didn't waste much time before blazing into higher grounds and promotional such as Chikara, New Japan's Pro Wrestling, and Evolve, just to name a few in that perspective. All right, Ricochet has also found one way in the WWE in 2000. Found his way into the WWE in 2018, along with the metric ton of the high expectations. Since making his debut, Ricochet has has some success. Probably not the way or at the level that we want him to be. All right, but he would be an option that if the Shield ever reunited, he would be a candidate for. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that. Probably not my number 1 choice. Coming in at number 4, and I'm only looking at this as this comes down, and I really do like this option because you see this person as many different fractions and throughout his career. He's had success both with the WWE and without the WWE. He is a high-flying guy. He really goes the extra distance and the extra mile. Formerly known as the Bullet Club. I'm throwing in AJ Styles. Sportscadia has him at number 4. All right, and so when we look at him, he's a WWE championship. He's a Grand Slam championship. Becoming the 22nd person in WWE history. The phenomenal one is at the point of his career where he's accomplished all the accolades he wants to. Being part of the Shield, I feel like he kind of has that it factor with Dean Ambrose. So AJ Styles comes in at number 4. Sportscadia has number 3 in here, and I'm a little iffy about this one. I'm pretty sure Trey is excited to hear about this one, but they have Drew McIntyre coming in as the 3rd person that could potentially be a replacement for Dean Ambrose if the Shield ever reunites. Listen, I think he's one of the greatest things I enjoy about Drew McIntyre is the fact that he was able to have a mid-card success in the WWE 15 years ago, and he was able to come back, leave the company, and come back and show everyone that, he had what it takes. He was a Vince McMahon protege. He was the next big thing. WWE released him because he wasn't getting over. And now he's back and he's made a name for himself. He carried the WWE during the pandemic in 2022. And I wouldn't argue why he wouldn't be a candidate to be in with the Shield. I just don't see it happening now or anytime soon. Coming in at number 2. Now this one here is actually a little shocking, surprising to me, but I could actually see this happening just because he hasn't wrestled in so long. He has never really wrestled in the WWE, so we really don't know what type of character or type of person Corey Graves plays at, but he's recently, earlier this year, been medically released to compete inside the ring once more. And I'm a big fan of seeing, of wanting to see Corey Graves. I missed out. I didn't start watching NXT until he got hurt, until he had to, go move down to commentating. And don't get me wrong, I love him commentating, but I think he would be a really good person. Now, the only problem I see Corey Graves having is him butting heads with Seth Rollins a little too much. I feel like they're too much of the same character. And coming in at number 1, out of the 5, I see 3 incredibly talented guys that could work. You see, I agree with AJ Styles. I see Corey Graves, but coming in at number 1 is the newly entered Cody Rhodes, who made his WWE return back at WrestleMania 38. And I just don't know if Cody would, he kind of feels for me as a Drew. Listen, he had to go off and make a name for himself, and he did that successfully. And moving just like that, seeing the American Nightmare join the Shield, that's going to be mixed emotions. I do, but I don't. But I feel like he would probably be the best candidate out there. Okay. So that is 5 people who could replace Dean Ambrose in the Shield. Now, like I said, Dean Ambrose, he's long gone. I don't see him ever coming back. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Give me your top 5 guys. If the Shield was to reunite tomorrow, you have Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, but then Dean Ambrose is not there because he's with AEW. Who do you see that replacement be, if there is a replacement? And let me know, and I'll get back to you on that. All right, let's take a break here, and let's come back, and I'm going to give you a little bit more update, talk about the brand split, Money in the Bank moving from stadium to an arena, and I'll tell you all about that and why coming up here as Justin and Trey continues on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
You ain't living your life, then you dead. And sleep is his cousin, so I shot my bed. Paranoia got me using these meds. Now I'm smoky as Chris on a Friday like crack.
All right, Justin and Trey returns here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Thank you guys for tuning in to us. And as we take you guys up to the top of the hour on Justin and Trey, we'd like to remind you guys we'll be back here all weekend. And, stay tuned to our social media accounts because we will be letting you know the upcoming schedules as the schedule changes, as there are certain times we will let you know. And all right. I'm actually excited. I sure hope Pat McAfee. There was an article that was shown. Excuse me. There was an article that was shown and aired about Pat McAfee. Now, I feel like when you okay, we're already in May, and you kind of just know that there are, what do you want to call it? There are how do I want to put this? I'm still trying to figure out the best way to put this. But we're in May. We're about to be in June, and there's already people that that have made a huge impact of their career in the year. You have people like, for example, Austin Theory. What has Austin Theory done this year? I've been preaching about this. I told you this from January 1st, and we knew that he was going to get a push, and he's gotten a push. What has he accomplished? We have Austin Theory. He's worked with Vince McMahon. He's worked with Brock Lesnar. He's had a WrestleMania moment. He got stunned. He worked with an amateur. He won the United States Championship, and he's also beaten Cody Rhodes. So, I mean, I am at the point where, for me, Austin Theory is the guy that has kind of like he's the athlete of the year in the WWE, right? When you think of a guy like Pat McAfee, he is another guy who has outlandished himself tremendously to the point where he is kind of like the guy. He's gotten a numerous, he got that mega contract deal, that sponsorship, or was it FanDuel or something like that. And he's done the NFL draft. He's done the Super Bowl week. He's gotten his own big booth. You don't see that happen a lot from a lot of people. His own big booth from, at the radio hall, the week before the Super Bowl. He's done, he's had a WrestleMania moment, and he just keeps on thriving. Give Pat McAfee a medal of the year, because he's done something not many people could do. And Pat McAfee is potentially also maybe getting himself a deal with Amazon for Thursday Night Football. And you think about this guy, he does a show in Indiana, and he does a show for 3 hours, 4 hours, however long. And then on Fridays, like for today, for instance, he has to jump on a plane, go to wherever Friday Night SmackDown is. He has to study for that and get ready for that, to call that show. And then he has all these other appearances going on and conversations. So Pat McAfee is in the works of working with Amazon on a Thursday Night Football deal. If so, hopefully that thing try to get everything fixed and worked out. I'm looking forward and seeing him being a part of that again. Now, this was a guy, you got to remember that he was a kicker for the Colts, and it's just things didn't work out. So, all right. So we're talking about that. I think the last half an hour, there's two things we really want to talk about. And the one thing I really want to bring up is just the fact, all right, the fact that Money in the Bank has been moved. Now, earlier this year, it was announced that the Money in the Bank was going to be at Allegiant Stadium, right, the home of the Las Vegas Raiders. And we even saw promotions at the stadium take priority, take options. And, we saw Cody Rhodes, and it was just announced this week that they are moving their venue from Las Vegas, well, not in Las Vegas, but from Allegiant Stadium to MGS. And, from my understanding, the WWE has done it because there's a lack of ticket sales. Now, I've never saw Money in the Bank being that big of a pay-per-view where it would require you to have an open football stadium as a venue. Now, I think that would be a cool idea. I think if you could have a venue at a stadium like Money in the Bank or Hell in a Cell or Survivor Series, that would be fantastic. I will love that because the venue, you could do so much more. You could take it around the arena, or around the stadium. But for me, I don't think that the WWE is quite there yet, especially where they're gravitating to. Now, listen, I would like to say that WrestleMania was a success with the attendance. Okay, I understand that you didn't reach your goals at 100,000, and I think that's a little far-fetched considering that it's in April. Pandemic, the gas prices are going up, living is expensive. You got 75,000 plus people at both nights. Don't forget the people who, and you did something tremendous, at AT&T, stadium. But to be able to do something like that at Money in the Bank, I don't think WWE is quite there yet. You want an arena. I feel that here's my personal belief. The Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series are your 4 big venues. If you're going to try to have a football field or a stadium, okay, for that matter, obtain or uphold a venue such as one of these, such as a WWE pay-per-view, you need to have it fixated around one of these 4 events because in history, okay, these are your 4 pay-per-views. You could get rid of all the other venues between there and have these 4, and that'd be perfectly fine. Now, when you talk about having a Money in the Bank, like I said, it's not that big. Right? I kind of wish that they still do that at WrestleMania. They don't need a pay-per-view just for Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is a simple 1-match briefcase. That means at most you're going to have 2 matches, and I could guarantee you that the main event's not going to be as well entertaining as it used to be back in the past. That's just my opinion, my belief. The WWE, I saw a Facebook post the other day. The WWE had venued Money in the Bank at Allegiant. They have, I believe it was Survivor Series. I don't know if I have it up here on my Facebook page on our show. Maybe not. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't have it. And I don't know. I'm not going to scroll down too far into it. Anyways, there's 3 different promotions that the WWE had at a stadium, and one already failed. My worries is that the WWE is trying to overbook themselves bigger and better to make money that is not going to work, especially at the rate that they're sitting at. That's just my belief. Anyways, WWE is sitting, like I said, we mentioned this already, have changed. They were moving from the Raiders Stadium at Allegiant Stadium here, home of the Las Vegas Raiders, and they're going on to MGS over still in Las Vegas, just a lower capacity level. All right, we'll take our last break. How about that? We'll take our last break. We'll come back. We'll get you guys ready for SmackDown. Brock Lesnar has already claimed that he has named his next WrestleMania 39 opponent, who has he claimed or would like to work with yet again next year's WrestleMania. Also, let's not forget. Let's continue. in the combination of the brands, as what can that lead to coming into tonight's show. Justin and Trey continues here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
I'm feeling low. Want you to know I ain't got much to show. Baby, I'm slow. Gonna creep into my snail show until the spring liberates me from my winter hell. I've got candles and candles.
Justin and Trey here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow and Sunday. Tomorrow is going to be a heavy day about talking about the NWF Revolution's Rising event. Okay, all the matches, everything that you need to know heading in there tomorrow. Be sure to tune in. Follow us on social media. Okay, at TNC Sports Talk, all social media apps. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok as well. And let's not miss a single action tomorrow night. If you guys are in the local area, you guys are interested in trying to get yourself a ticket down there. It's their first all women's wrestling event tomorrow night at Revolution Rising. They got numerous matches, both paired up between NWF and PGWA. And like I said, we are thankful and proud to be sponsoring a match of our own, where Nevaeh will be taking on and trying to capture the NWF Women's Championship when she takes on Ella. And like I said, I know Trey and I will be down there tomorrow. Be sure to say hi and stop by, and and then come back on and listen to us as we get you ready through the weekend. Don't forget also the Cincinnati Reds will be taking on the San Francisco Giants this weekend. I didn't have a picture for you guys of the Reds. They'll be at home. I'm trying to see the picture. There you go. Graham Ashcraft is going to be the pitcher. He's been, I want to say he's been called up. He has pitched one game. He started one game, ERA 4.15 ERA, 4 1/3 of an inning, 2 strikeouts. He has, I don't know, he's pitched against Toronto back on the 22nd in the game that it looks like they lost. So he'll get the nod for the mound on a Friday night against the San Francisco Giants. You guys can head out there tonight. They'll be playing tomorrow and Sunday as well. All right. So, we are kind of getting ourselves acclimated to this new process that the WWE is going. I will tell you right now that there has been a lot of things that has happened over the last month in the WWE that I don't think fans are used to seeing, and I think there's a lot of questions on what the future holds for the WWE. When you have things like, so we understand that Triple H has, listen, he had that health condition last year. He was like, listen, this is done. I've had a career. There's no point in me getting back in the ring at my age to do anything that will put my body on the line where I can physically hurt myself even more so for my kids at my age. So Triple H has said, has officially retired. He's not going to put up another match. And I think that's a great step for him to do. I think that there needs to be more of that. I would like to see, so that's set aside. We can make that comparison. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's the same thing. What about Ric Flair? Let's not worry about Ric Flair right now. We'll talk about that another day. then we're seeing management change, front office changes in the show, in the game, in the WWE. We are seeing Stephanie McMahon take it to social media. We've seen WWE corporate take it to social media that they're looking to replace or fill in Stephanie McMahon's position. And this is the first time for me, and I believe for much more everyone else, that we have seen the WWE do anything or make any drastic changes to their company that, it makes you wonder what's going on. And at least make it where the WWE is publicly making it known that this is what they're looking for, right? The WWE is, I don't know what's going on with them. I really wish I could tell you exactly, or they would come out, and you'll never know. All right, at least not at this point. I mean, is the McMahon family, after 40, 50 years in the industry, slowly getting out of the business? I understand, after what happened with Triple H and now with him retiring, Stephanie McMahon maybe wants to spend more time with her kids and her family, and I understand that, but it feels off, because when you're so used to one family, this is a family that's built themselves from nothing. This was a circus, and they built this industry from nothing, because prior to this was wrestling. Professional wrestling was something you would have found when the circus came into town. And then they created territorial stages, and it was all going to be equal. And if it wasn't for the McMahon family, specifically in Vince McMahon, we wouldn't have gotten this far. So a little worried about what's going on. People are exiting. People are coming in. Brands are splitting or combining once again. And I understand why the brands are once again combining. They don't have the roster. All right. How can you have women tag team titles when you don't have women to defend them or compete against them? Okay. I remember when the women's tag team titles were brought to play in the WWE, it was going to be defended between Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. That's not happening. All right. You got NXT that has their own. For me, NXT looks more stable right now than WWE itself. Maybe that's an issue of its own. All right. Now, like I said, we're also going through changes. All right. It's been 7 years since we splitted the brands up. It worked, because we had the roster size. I mean, AJ Styles came into play, Dean Ambrose, John Cena, Bryan Danielson, Matt Cardona. There's just so much talent. Andrade, they were all coming up. Bobby Roode, all coming up through the system. And now they're all moved on. Either they're washed up right now in WWE because they won't push them, or they're moved on to bigger and better things. Rusev, for a great example. Ruby Soho in AEW, another great example. Sting was even on the WWE roster. So I feel like so you combine the rosters, that's great. I feel like that's now giving you time or, allowance to step away. What that does to me is that now you can see now Raw and SmackDown is getting the same performance. To see Cody, to see Seth, to see Bobby Lashley, you don't need to see Roman Reigns each and every week. I get that. But in a dramatic change, okay, we are going, it's a little unsettling, because what does combining the brands do? I don't know if it necessarily puts you or gives you more tag team, more teams to go up against with the Usos. It doesn't give you more people to put up against Roman Reigns. it doesn't solve the issue that you have 3 hours on Raw that is not accounted for. Okay. So what is the WWE doing, and how are they making this transition? And I feel like for me, this is a week to week conversation, because it could change. Maybe when you finally feel like there is a path or a direction that the WWE is taking, it changes right when you say, or let me put it this way, right when you get comfortable. So if you guys have answers, please let me know and fill in. Brock Lesnar came out there. There was an article that came out back yesterday, matter of fact. Brock Lesnar is already called out for a match at WrestleMania 39. So the part-timer Brock Lesnar has been taking a break from pro wrestling since dropping the WWE Championship to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Okay, we know that. It's never safe to assume that Vince McMahon is done booking matches between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. I feel like, we're at this point after a decade long. We are still going to continue to see Brock Lesnar. I'm most certain that this feud's not done. We will see it once and more. I guess we're just have to wait for it, but I think we're moving forward. I don't think we need to see a rematch at WrestleMania 39. All right. Okay. One man who has already beat Brock this year already has his eyes set for a rematch. Now, there was an article that came out. All right. So the bump on the WWE's The Bump, when it was asked, when Bobby Lashley was asked who he liked to fight at next year's WrestleMania in Los Angeles, he said Brock Lesnar. So as of right now, you could take it for what it's worth, but I am throwing it out there that I would like to, because I agree with Bobby Lashley, I would like to see Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley one more time. You see, when they had their match they didn't really have their match. It was a fatal 5-way, and they didn't really have just a clear one-on-one competition match, from my understanding. Put it this way, you'll find out. I would like to see a nice build-up. Okay. I would like to see, because Brock Lesnar defeated, Bobby Lashley defeated Brock Lesnar this year at the Royal Rumble, after Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman cost Lesnar the WWE Championship. Okay. Excuse me. So listen to this. We never have seen a clear story being told between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. I think that the WWE Universe is a big fan of these two men stepping in the ring and going toe to toe with each other once more. The problem is that people, obviously it's going to be claimed that these two men have already stepped in the ring with each other before earlier this year. But the problem is that the stipulations were completely different. See, Brock Lesnar didn't have his eyes set on Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley had his eyes set on Brock Lesnar because he was added on to the Fatal 4-Way, which created a Fatal 5-Way at day one, Premium Live. All right. So this entire time, and the entire story was not fixated between Bobby and Brock. It was fixated between Brock and Roman Reigns, which then made this match did not make this match the focus point of the storyline between Bobby and Brock. I will love to see, with how Bobby Lashley is working with Omos right now, I will love to see Bobby and Brock Lesnar next year at WrestleMania. I don't know if you need a title on the match on the line to make that something interesting worth talking about, but I want to see a clear storyline of these two Goliaths going toe to toe with each other. We could only already presume or assume that Roman Reigns will be facing The Rock at next year's WrestleMania. At least that's where the line is headed up to. We don't know the direction between Cody Rhodes, and let's be honest, I can almost yet again see either Cody face Seth Rollins or even AJ Styles, or hell, even Edge once more at WrestleMania. So as we start planning, as we start looking into what's going on, not what's going on, but next year's WrestleMania, you can start putting storylines together and things that we would like to see. Now, we probably predict a lot of that last year. We didn't get hardly any of that last year, but it's always fun to predict and to waste time and see what happens. For NXT X that can join SmackDown after the suspension of Sasha Banks and Naomi, this was, as this brand starts combining, as people are exiting, WWE, as NXT continues to grow, you're going to have to start putting up some other people as well. Obviously, with Naomi and Sasha Banks' storyline coming down to an end, that tag team women's title becomes available. And it's going to be a part of a match on Raw to determine Bianca Belair's challenge. That was supposed to be at Hell in a Cell. Okay. They walked out. We already know that. The SmackDown roster needs both depths and worthy title challengers. I agree with that 100%. What's next for Ronda Rousey? I feel like it's been quiet. Maybe, there's been thrown out. They threw it out. Flair, Banks, Shayna. That was pretty much it, and that's not enough. What about Naomi in this sense? What about Natalya? I would like to see Natalya face Ronda Rousey. WWE will still find opponents for her, but for the rest of the roster should be built before she has a regular title defense. Okay, we saw Sasha just kind of face Raquel Rodriguez a couple weeks ago. So here's 5 things, or 5 opponents, or 4 opponents that could come up. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter are natural tag teams. Think about the tag team women's division now. They could be brought up as a tag team opponent, kind of helping pave that direction. I would like to see that happen as well. Alba Fury recently underwent a name change. Okay. Former Kylie Ray, and her name change earlier this month. She has been featured in the developmental brand for nearly 2 years as one of the most experienced women in the WWE. She has already challenged for the NXT Women's Championship. She would be a good opponent, especially when you look at maybe people like Bianca Belair in a instance. I feel like some of Bianca Belair's opponents could go after Ronda Rousey and kind of make room in coming up. Another great team that they could be bringing up, and I wish that they would bring up, is Toxic Attraction, especially with the attitude on SmackDown. This is something that when you thought that when Sonya Deville decided to step down and step away from the in-ring competition, Mandy Rose came in, developed Toxic Attraction, winning her title, kind of really reinvented herself and really carrying people like JC Jane and Gigi Dolan, okay, to win the two-time women's tag team champions in NXT. Coming in at number 1, a person that should have been brought up for quite some time, a person that I would love to see when we talk about in a future rivalry with someone else. I could see this person with a person like Asuka going up against, or even teaming up with her. What about Io Shirai? All right, one of the longest tenured stars in NXT Women's Division. I remember her coming into NXT right after Asuka got brought up. Why not Io Shirai? Another perfect name to add up. These are all guys or females in the women's industry that can get brought up to help add depth to that roster, especially since now they combine the brands as well as the roster that they already have. So, all right, that's all the time we have here on Justin the Trey. Wanted to give you say thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, you guys could check us out on audio streaming platforms as well: iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And check us out tomorrow as we break down NWF's Revolution Rising. On behalf of the entire crew and myself, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow.